who gets promoted to the role of principal, now controls your child. We happy yet? Who would want that and why? The decision-making responsibility policy for students addresses situations in which students, though under the age of 18 years, may be sufficiently mature to make their own decisions. Who would want to take your control of your children without your permission, and why? And this is a question for each of you to actually consider for yourselves. I'm not going to give you the answer. But that, to me, is terrifying. And I can tell you, I'll have a less measured response if a teacher tried that with my kids. And in fact, case in point, because it ceases to be theory at this point. One of my children came home, not long. We're in the kitchen and the kids were playing, and I heard the two daughters playing. And I heard one of the daughters say, "Some families have two mums." That got my attention. And we gently asked, "Where did you hear that, darling?" "Oh, at school." "Oh, really? Where did you hear that from?" "Oh, Miss X read it to us at story time." Okay, this is a Catholic school, mind you. Now, you don't have to agree with me, and I don't much care whether you do or not. So I wrote a very polite letter to the principal and the diocese, suggesting he had provided me information on whether they are providing LGBT theory, if so, in what way, which books, the titles, the authors. Because I previously actually met him personally and said, "Do you teach LGBT theory?" And he was evasive in both his answer and his behaviour. He immediately rang the next day, or his PA did, and tried to set up a meeting. And I said, "No thanks, I want a written response, please." Who has the right to tell your child what to do in your absence? Who wants this story quiet, and why? Let's move on. Bernard Gaynor denied free speech. Some of you know Bernard Gaynor's case. It started off because he quite rightly said, "You are not allowed to wear a military uniform," quoting the defence's own rules to defence, "in political events." And the military turned up the gay and lesbian Mardi Gras, which is massively political. He was subsequently thrown out of the military for that. Our current Governor-General, His Excellency David Hurley, who I know personally, I first met him when I was Lieutenant Colonel. Nice bloke, lovely guy, straight shooter, honest, good commander. He sacked him the day before he resigned as CDF. Good old Bernard. He sent this tweet out yesterday. "I'll return to the New South Wales Court of Appeal in a few minutes." And I actually attended and sat in and watched this in action. "It will be the 33rd time courts and tribunals in New South Wales have dealt with the onslaught of complaints brought against me by serial litigant Gary Burns." Now, Gary Burns is a homosexual. There's nothing wrong with that, to quote Seinfeld. But Gary Burns consistently alleges that Bernard Gaynor is offending him. So 33 times. 37 complaints since 2014. Not found guilty once. Millions of taxpayers' dollars wasted. Now, why would that story not be front page news for all of you freedom of speech advocates out there? Yeah. Why? Why would that be kept quiet? Because here's the funny thing about the media. You think that all of a sudden a halo descends upon you when you become a journalist, and you are granted the gift of pure balance. You don't think the ABC is full of lefts, and you don't think the commercial stations are full of people who are just following corporate orders to sell ad space or advance a particular issue. Nothing special about journalists. I said that to Rita Parnahy on Outsiders. There's nothing special. You're as prone to goodness and corruption as everybody else. And to bundle it together and say the journalists need, really? Well, here's a tip. I spent a lot of my time in nasty places around the world, and there's some nasty people out there that'll do us real harm. And there are genuine threats. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't misuses of those powers. I agree with our second speaker, profoundly. But don't pretend that these are the strawberry fields. We're living with the eyes closed is easy, misunderstanding all you see. No. These are nasty the world's a mean and nasty place. So who wants this kept quiet? Free speech. Yet he won't get front page news. In fact, the allegation is that in one of his court cases, the decision by the government or the tribunal was found to be unconstitutional. So the state government passed a law to make it constitutional and continue prosecuting him. Now, in what country does a government change the constitution and the law just to continue prosecuting one individual? And yet, the alleged free speech advocates haven't said a word about Bernard.
Oh, God, no.
Why?
Absolutely not.
Continue asking yourself.
That next one, yes.
Next, and now I apologise for this, but if you're all adults here, the theft of lands and brutal slaughter of white South Africans.
Oh, yeah.
Now I've worked with the South Africans, they kick ass. I worked with them overseas, South African Special Forces, good guys. Now why was this portrayed in our media in a particular way? Statements like they deserve to die anyway because they stole the blacks' lands. Really?
They didn't.
Let me tell you a story. And I do apologise for this, but this is adults only time. 30-year-old dad, 28-year-old mum, 3-year-old daughter. White South African farmers. A gang of black South Africans raped and murdered the mother, and that was witnessed by her 3-year-old daughter. The gang then crucified the 3-year-old daughter to the table with knives through her hands and then gang raped her. They then burned the 3-year-old child who was still alive. They burnt her till she was dead, while she was still attached to the table. And the husband was forced to watch this because they cut his eyelids so he couldn't close his eyes. And what was the image that was portrayed on our wonderfully free media in Australia about the South African story? Oh no, well they deserve it. It's not that bad. Don't bring them over here for God's sake. Why? Who would want that story kept off the front page? And why? Are you beginning to understand the forces at play here? And it's not some fool like Morrison or Dutton. They're puppets, they're marionettes. They just dance when they're told to dance. And the same goes to the other side of politics too. Don't worry, I'm not just beating up on one side here.